Howdy y'all, it's my birthday. Okay, well it probably won't actually be my birthday anymore when I upload this because it takes me like a week to edit anything, but November 8th is my birthday. So this year I'm turning 25, and I know to all the tweens and teens of YouTubes, that makes me ancient. But that's okay, because I'm here to tell you that we broke time. Isn't that great, guys? Now that we broke time, we can all just stop aging and live forever. Well, no, you're probably still gonna die. And some of us, probably sooner than others. So what do COVID and the presidential election have in common? Well, they're both very good for my analytics. Yes, that's right, on Sam the Anthro we're getting very controversial, very topical, very clickbait. But before I trigger another doom spiral, let me just say that 2020 didn't break time. Time never existed in the first place. No, even better, time is a social construct. So we've got a problem. You see, the internet, that great bastion where anyone can learn anything their heart desires, is terrible at popularizing academic language. Now, I could write a whole video about all the things that suck about grad school and academia. By the way, leave a comment if that's something you'd like me to do. But one thing that academia is actually good at is at using very specific language to describe very specific phenomena. And what the internet often does is it takes these academic terms and plays a game of telephone with them until they mean whatever your politics want them to mean. Look, I'm not a prescriptivist. I think that language should be shaped by the people who use it. However, if I have to listen to one more internet man describe what they think cultural appropriation or social construct means based off of what if Twitter told them it means, I'm gonna lose it. Let's take this fancy coin with a bird on it, for example. Now, if I were to go to the US and try to use that, they would tell me that's not allowed. I would need an American fancy coin with a bird on it. But if I took this same coin to one of the shops that's behind me, they would hand me a delicious treat. Now, has anything about this coin changed? No, only the circumstances that I'm trying to use it for. We've all agreed that this is money, and so I can trade it for goods and services. Now, when I say that money is a social construct, what I'm not saying is that money isn't real. Money is as real as etiquette or gender or any of the other million things that we as humans decided upon. But that's the thing, we decided upon it. It's not some law of nature, and we can decide it's something different whenever we want to. Do I even need to mention Bitcoin? No, really, do I need to mention Bitcoin? Because between you and me, I don't want to talk about Bitcoin. So if we go with the idea that time is a social construct, what does that have to say about COVID or the presidential election? Well, for months now, I've been hearing people make the same jokes about how time doesn't feel real anymore, how it still feels like March for a lot of people, even though the months on the calendar are ticking away. And as I was writing this script during the US election, a lot of people were saying that it felt like the longest Tuesday of their lives. And even though the US election is finally over, we're still living with COVID. We will be living with COVID for a long time. So what has happened to our sense of time? Well, the pessimistic answer is that we're all traumatized. That COVID has taken so much from us that it's put us all in a traumatic coma, essentially. And I do think there is some truth to that, but I want to try to come at this from a different angle. So how do humans measure time? Well, there's not really one answer to that. There rarely is when we're talking cross-culturally. You can measure it in hours, minutes, and seconds. You can follow the sun or the moon across the sky. Or if you're looking at something more long-term, you can even chart the stars. So let's say I'm not charting the stars. I just want to mark something more personal, like a birthday. That seems simple enough, right? But this can get pretty tricky. The calendar that you're probably most familiar with is the Gregorian calendar. But it's not the only calendar. There is a Jewish calendar and the Hijri calendar. A more specific example is the Japanese, who record their years by the emperor's dynasty. So while for me it's 2020, in Japan it's the second year of Reiwa. So okay, you pick one of the calendars, whichever one's your favorite, and then you mark your kid's birthday down so that they can celebrate that birthday. Except, when do you celebrate a birthday? I know that sounds silly to a lot of people to ask, do you celebrate your birthday on your birthday? But not everyone even agrees when to celebrate a birthday. In Korea, for example, they have a special celebration for when a baby reaches 100 days old. In Ecuador, you celebrate your birthday on the day of the saint you were named after. And if you think about it, baby showers and gender reveal parties, those are rituals surrounding a birth, but they aren't attached to any date per se. So, birthdays aren't real and we broke time. How did this happen? Well, if there's anything that can be universally said about humans, it's that we tend to love a good ritual, and those aren't happening right now. Or at least, they're not happening like they used to. And when hundreds and thousands of people are getting sick and dying, celebrating something like a birthday can seem almost trivial or hurtful to the people who have lost someone. But it's those same trivial seeming things that are a powerful tool to keep people sane, even in crazy times. Victor Turner talked about liminality a lot in his research. He was doing work on coming-of-age rituals. Coming-of-age rituals being things like bar mitzvahs or quinceañeras. And in these kinds of rituals, you are supposed to go through a transitional period, where you go from being one thing to another. And during this ritual, in this transitional period, the normal rules of society don't exist. They're either changed or they're broken. And after you go through this exciting or sometimes scary ritual, you emerge as a woman or you emerge as an adult in your tribe. And if we think of the pandemic as a sort of liminal phase, it gets really interesting because if you think about it, the normal rules of society aren't being followed or they're being changed. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I look at my videos from like a year ago and I think, there are entirely too many people in this photo. I do struggle a bit with calling the pandemic a liminal stage though. Because if we're applying liminality to the pandemic the same way we would a coming-of-age ritual, in coming-of-age rituals, there's usually a point to that liminality. But I don't want to try and attach some meaning to the pandemic. Partially because it's still happening and I don't know what the outcome of it will be, but also because I don't think the lives of hundreds of thousands of people are worth some kind of after-school special. But there is a different way of thinking about this, and that's in the frame of phenomenology. Okay, I know the non-academics in my audience are probably not loving me using all these nerd words, but hear me out. Phenomenology is a type of philosophy, and it can be applied different ways to different disciplines, and how we typically understand it in anthropology is as a tool to help us try and analyze things that happen in human existence that are momentary or situational. Let's take scuba diving, for example. If I were to ask someone what scuba diving felt like, the answer I'm probably going to get is that you just have to experience it. There are certain experiences in human life, like scuba diving or dancing or giving birth, where you exist inside of a certain space that is so unique from the rest of human society that it's really difficult to explain that to an outsider. The other kind of liminality is spatial liminality, and this type of liminality happens when human beings are put into certain situations that they wouldn't be in their day-to-day lives, and as such they kind of have to adapt their ways of being. And that's sort of what we're all doing right now, trying to adapt our ways of being to the circumstances. But the way that we mark time and the rituals we use to mark the passage of time haven't changed, and so time can feel kind of broken. And I'm not sure when time will feel unbroken again. The longer it stretches on, the more likely it is that humans will try to unbreak time by creating new rituals. It's arguably already happened. If you've been to a live stream of a friend's wedding or drove by a person's house to honk at them on their birthday, you're finding ways to celebrate despite the circumstances. And that doesn't mean I want this to be the new normal. We're stuck like this because the United States government and the Canadian government haven't done enough to protect its citizens. But if COVID has taught me anything, it's that nothing is set in stone, not even the things we think are most sacred or important. We are capable of drastic change. This time for the worse, but maybe next time for the better. And I guess that's what I'm holding on to this birthday. Well, that, and the hope that maybe this time next year, I won't be spending it alone. So I hope this video inspires you to think a little more about time and the way that you're recording time, whether that's through artwork or photos or journaling. We live in unprecedented times, for better or for worse, and people in the future are gonna wanna know what now feels like. So we have to try to take the time, even in the middle of all of our doom spirals, to make a note of that for people in the future. And if you liked this video, I hope you'll take a moment of your time to like and subscribe. Bye, y'all.